Hey everyone, and welcome to Build Onchain. Today we're joined by Martin from Avalanche. Martin, please introduce yourself to the audience. Talk a little bit maybe about like how you got involved with Avalanche, and give us a little bit of your background.
Awesome. Hi, very nice to meet you. Super happy to be here. I'm Senior Director of Developer Relations at Avalanche. Working with a lot of developers there, help them to launch their own L1 or build on our C chain. And super excited to be here. I got into the Avalanche ecosystem, I think, roughly 3 years ago at the first Avalanche Summit in Barcelona back then. There was, I think, peak bull market. Very, very fun.
I actually remember the photos from that one. I was like, man,
that was wild. Then got into the ecosystem. I think the whole market crashed not long after. Since then, I've been building and eventually joined the team and took over the developer relations team there. And now have a super passionate team around the globe that is super excited to make building on Avalanche a lot more seamless than it used to be.
Totally. Yeah. I actually joined crypto like similar timing, and I feel like the signal to noise ratio in the space has gone up like so immensely. It's almost impossible to spend anything in my free time other than just like reading updates from like really cool protocols and companies working on things. I can't even follow anything anymore. It's so ridiculous. Anyways, why don't you tell us what's new at Avalanche and what we're going to build today in this demo?
Yeah. So I think my team and me, we've been really focusing on how we can make launching a chain in the Avalanche ecosystem as smooth as possible, right? Like high-level primer, what is Avalanche? Avalanche is a multi-chain system, meaning it's not a single chain like Solana or Ethereum. It's a set of chains. And there was a pretty big update recently around the change of the year, and now we call them not subnets anymore, but Avalanche L1s, and lots of economic barriers have been removed. So what we're following up now with is, also removing a lot of the technical complexities and showing people how to run L1s in, production-like settings really easily. So super excited to show that today.
Nice. Okay, let's do it. Let's get this demo rolling.
Awesome. All right. So I brought you guys the Avalanche Builder tooling here. As you can see, it's a graphical interface. So we are going to facilitate some of the steps required to launch an L1 from this interface here. You can also run this locally. There's no state actually in this website saved to any account or anything. But for convenience, we've built it into the Avalanche Builder Hub, but everything is open source. The code is there. You can run this locally or on your own website, you can have it like hosted. So there are a couple steps that we need to do to create these chains. So we talked about it a little bit, right? Like Avalanche is a multi-chain system, and we have this concept of kind of like an interoperability backbone. And this one, involves that every chain is registered on our P chain, and then also the validators are there. And this is what we're starting with, right? So the first thing we're going to do is we are creating the record of a subnet. So the legacy term, unfortunately, that is not removable from the code, but we're doing that. And we can see, the browser wallet pops up similar to, a swap on the DEX or anything, and we just click approve, and now we've done this. And the next thing then is to add an actual blockchain to that subnet, right? So it pre-filled already the subnet ID of the one we just created, and then we can just put a great name here. And now we can do some customizations. We're going to just go with an out-of-the-box EVM. Obviously, the EVM chain ID, just a random generated number here, which is fine if we are just testing. And now we can dive into kind of like the different options that I have when I create my own layer 1 blockchain, right? So for example, yeah?
I was just going to say, before we get too deep into this, for anyone that's not super familiar, do you mind explaining the difference about how a rollup on a network like Ethereum might work, and how Avalanche is different, like how Avalanche makes kind of interoperability work out of the box with all the other chains on Avalanche? I've always thought Avalanche was technically very cool. So I'd love to hear from in your own words, kind of how a subnet, or what Avalanche is now calling an L1, is different than Ethereum and rollups.
Yeah, 100%. So actually kind of rollups, right, are rolling to a settlement layer, right? So They may be layer 2s, maybe even layer 3s that are rolling up to a layer 2 that's then rolling up to a layer 1. But they are basically, like taking some transactions, trying to get them together, prove them on a layer 1. They don't have the concept of their own validator set. They have kind of like something that's called like a sequencer who's doing like a lot of stuff there, right? Layer 1s are really simple. Like a layer 1 blockchain, what we're doing is, like create a chain similar to Ethereum, to Solana, to all these layer 1 blockchains, right? Like they're not settling anywhere. They have their own validator set. So, like with what most people are familiar with from public permissionless chains, you can do that here. These chains can be public and permissionless, but they can also be private. They can also be permissioned if necessary, right? Like there are many, many different options to customize an L1. But yeah, it's really kind of like this network of layer 1 blockchains in the Avalanche ecosystem. It's very, very, when it comes to interoperability, that's really the key part. That's what everyone's trying to solve. With layer 2s, like interoperability usually goes through their settlement layer. With Avalanche, like all these L1s in our ecosystem are natively interoperable with each other, meaning they can send messages, exchange assets, all that trustlessly and really quick and really cheap. And this is really what we're trying to do today.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, let's go on with it. I've always thought it was really cool how they do it. Like if you're interested, look up how Avalanche validates messages between different L1/subnets using BLS signatures. Very cool. But let's keep going.
Awesome. So like I said, right, like we can configure different things about our chain. Maybe it's permissioning that we can optionally use, like only, for example, approved addresses can deploy contracts. Many, many different things. We're just going to skip over it. But, you can look through this here and see kind of like what options you have here. And then eventually, like we're going to create our chain similar to what just happened with the subnet record. Now we are creating the chain record, Okay, so chain was created successfully. This looks great. So the next thing is, right, like our records on this P chain, on this interoperability backbone are now created. The next thing that we want to do here is we want to set up now our first node. Like our subnet right now, our L1 is just kind of like a record out there in the Avalanche network, but there are no validators, no nodes, nothing associated with it yet. So
that's interesting. Does that mean that like when you create the subnet, you like initialize the first? Like, I guess when you create the subnet, do you have to define like who that first validator is? Or can anyone, as soon as you create a subnet, just create a validator and start validating?
So right now, it's just kind of like out there in this limbo space without a validator. What we're going to do next is we're actually going to spin up some nodes for it, or specifically one node, which is going to track this, like L1 that doesn't really have any, can't even be connected to yet. And then in the next step, actually, we're going to do one more operation where we actually promote that validator to become this node to become the validator. And then it's fully usable. We will connect our wallet to it, and it's all there. Yeah. So what I did before, I created this AWS instance. Like it's just a regular Linux instance on AWS. This works locally or on any cloud provider of your choice. I already installed Docker, but if you don't have Docker installed here already, you can just copy this command, and then now I can select our one that we want to run the node for. So the build Onchain chain that I just created. All right, I got some options for the node. Don't really have to worry about it. Have to make sure that some ports are open. But at the end of the day, I just copy this Docker command here, paste it into my terminal here, and now we are up and running. Let's see. So I can see my Avalanche Go node here, and let's see how that works. So let's see if we can check if the chain has bootstrapped. So that is looking great. If the chain is responding to the ETH chain ID RPC call, it seems to be up and healthy. What we can do next is we can set up a reverse proxy, so I can actually connect with my chain. So this is something for a requirement of the wallets, right? Like you need HTTPS. So we are doing a little bit of a shortcut here, but let me do that real quick. So, oh yeah, we already have that. Just 1 second. All right, and now we have the thing up and running. So what I can do next is I can actually check from my terminal if I can connect to my chain. So I'm not on the AWS machine that I just did open up here. I'm actually on my local computer here, and I can see now I can also connect to it. You know, I know I promised a 15-minute demo, so let's see how far we're gonna come here. But I think we are pretty close already. Let me see if I can add my chain to the to my wallet, and it looks like it. Yeah. So I will just check my networks here. Build Onchain, and there we build Onchain chain. Yeah. So yeah, this is really like all the steps that are necessary. The next step that I will need to do is I will add my validator here as an actual, my node as an actual validator. This is what we call the conversion from a subnet to an L1. I can do that real quick. I can just grab this little command here to get some of the credentials of that validator that we already talked about. We can dive deeper into how the interoperability and everything works there actually in a minute. So we will just do that real quick. Add my node here, convert it to an L1, and my wallet will pop up. And from there on, my node that we've just spun up is now officially a validator. So let's see if they got the message already. It looks like node added to the validator set. So we are right there. The chain is up and running. We should be good to go. Let's see if we're there yet. All right. Yeah. So this was like like a couple steps. Obviously, there's a lot of resources here that help you spinning up your first L1. For example, in the Avalanche Academy, which is like our place for people to learn. So if you head to the Avalanche Fundamentals course in there, there's a whole kind of like chapter on just creating your L1, and you will follow the exact same steps that I just did, in line with a lot more context that I just gave. Like how does it work to create a blockchain? How does it work to create a subnet? What does that actually mean? What does it mean to set up a validator and everything? All these tools that we just used in line are now kind of like embedded here. So yeah, this is really the whole process. Now you have your L1 up and running, and the question is obviously, like what else can we do with this L1, and how is it different, and how is it enabling certain apps to build like amazing applications that are not, or harder to build maybe on public permissionless chains.
Yeah, I would love to ask, like, I guess, how does the security model now work for this? Like, how are validators incentivized to join the network? And how does that work nowadays? I remember I was very familiar with like the 2000, essentially like 2000 Avalanche. You need to create a subnet, and then you basically like incentivize validators to join the network via fees or token emissions. How does that work now? Is that similar?
Yeah, so this 2000 AVAX staking requirement was a huge economic barrier to launch your L1 blockchain, right? So what we actually did, we removed it entirely. So the architecture before we made the change to L1s, or like you described, like everyone was part of the Avalanche network, every validator, and they were all validating the primary network. So each of them had to actually stake 2000 AVAX. This was a huge economic barrier, like 2000 AVAX, that's $40,000. Even if you only have maybe 5 validators in a permissioned L1, that's like $200,000 worth of AVAX, right? That's a lot of, a high economic barrier. So what we did is we changed the architecture actually to have now distinct validator sets. Like the primary network validator has its own validator set. Everyone is staking 2000 AVAX, but the L1s itself, they are now standalone. They have completely distinct validator sets. These validators do not have to stake 2000 AVAX anymore, but they're still part of the Avalanche network and can use the native interoperability. And this way, we removed like this economic barrier. Now it's much easier and cheaper. And we also, like lowered hardware requirements for these L1s. and made it more fault isolated. So if there was an issue either on the L1 or the primary network, neither of the other one would be affected. Actually, they wouldn't even notice that there's an issue. So this is where like the new architecture, and as part of it, that's how we can also spin up these L1s so quickly and easily and cheaply.
How like let's say a team wants to build like an Avalanche L1. They can obviously self-host the way you showed, but are there any like managed hosting services similar to maybe some of the services that exist on Ethereum right now?
Exactly. Yes. So there are 3 supporting Avalanche right now. One is Gelato. The other one is Ava Cloud, the in-house of cloud provider of Ava Labs. And then there's also Zeef. So each of them, like can basically host the entire L1. You can also mix and match, which is very unique feature that is really hard to do within layer 2, but within layer 1, like you can perfectly say, okay, let's say we want to have 15 validators, and I'm going to split the 15 validators across the 3. So you don't have to trust a single provider. You can, like run it across. Maybe you also want to run 5 yourself. Maybe you want to have, like 50% of the nodes to be run by your community. But you want to have kind of like a solid base set that is run either by like these blockchain as a service providers, but also our partners like Chorus One help out with that. And this is like a really unique feature where you can use these professional services, but you don't rely on them, because the reality is like most of the layer 2s, if you run them with a service provider for you, you're putting a lot of trust in them.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Okay, so some other questions I have, I guess, like what are like super unique projects that you're seeing built on Avalanche right now?
Yeah, so I'd say like so I'd say the most unique projects I'm seeing is really like these projects that are bringing in users that are maybe not the typical crypto users. So what we saw, we had like I think roughly 2 weeks ago the launch of the FIFA blockchain, which hosts like FIFA Collect and everything. And you can really see,
That's cool.
These people are, like definitely not like the crypto native DeFi users. Maybe, they are really like like a whole new crowd. Then we also saw that MapleStory launched a blockchain with Nexon. So super exciting also, right? Like these use cases that are like out there and really bring new people to our ecosystem, but also just on chain. That's what I'm super excited about, and I think that's also like what makes Avalanche L1s like so exciting, because like you can much easier build applications that appeal to these users that sometimes may even not know that they're on chain, right? Like abstracting gas fees away and everything. So that's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah, I think like the total chain abstraction thing is very cool. I remember I played that mud game that came out. It was like the Minecraft on a like OP rollup, and every time you like mined anything in the Minecraft game, it was a transaction. It just felt so seamless. It was so cool. Okay, looking towards the future, what are some like really unique project opportunities that you'd like to see built on Avalanche that don't currently exist, that you're like excited about? What spaces do you think are like prime to use Avalanche that maybe haven't appeared yet?
Yeah, I think with like the number of chains that are growing, right? Like so in the Avalanche network, we have, I would say, like roughly like 70 chains that are really active, and we also see that the interoperability is getting used more and more, and I think we're on a good path with that. I think really there are a lot of opportunities for builders that can help making this network really feel like one. So like to users really abstract this concept. Like a multi-chain system gives you incredible scalability. Like as you saw, we just added a chain, we just added entirely new block space that is natively interoperable. We can bridge USDC in 5 minutes over. But like how do you make that all very, very seamless? So what we see a lot right now is like people doing bridges, but then like okay, like multi-hop bridges. Then the next step is kind of like how do we like optimize route swapping routes across like different L1s. So I think like everything in that realm is like super interesting, how you can really abstract a lot of stuff their way.
Yeah, I think like out of the package, the ability to like launch an L1, like have some sort of on ramp on Avalanche's L1 to like on ramp some sort of USDC, immediately transfer it to this new blockchain in some sort of chain abstracted wallet, or like chain abstracted balance or account abstraction type thing. could be super powerful, right? Like people don't even need to know that they're using crypto. It could just look like a normal Google login, and like they fund their account like very, very seamlessly. I'm like super bullish about those kinds of like user experiences in the future. Okay, super cool. Any like upcoming alpha you can share about like Avalanche's roadmap or things that are being worked on internally? If they're public, that'd be cool to talk about those things
Of course, yeah. So I think what we figured out and made pretty smooth in the past was, like how to spin up your own chain, how to make it interoperable, how to bring, let's say, like set up a bridge with just a few clicks. For your newly spun up L1, you can learn about all that in Avalanche Academy. So I think everyone's pretty happy with that. Our main focus right now is now increasing kind of like from the capability of adding more chains, making these individual chains more performant, like really doubling down on, okay, like now everyone is in, like has the capability to create their own block space. How can we make that block space as large as possible? Yeah, and this is kind of like the main driver of our engineering team right now. Increased performance throughput of our public permissionless chain, the C chain. People that have been using it saw massive drops in fees already, and also bring these performance optimization to L1s.
Yeah, I feel like EVM performance optimization is just such an amazingly cool space right now. Parallelization, just like even just what the Ref team has done to like speed up the execution engine. It's so cool. So that's awesome to hear. Last thing, if developers want to build on Avalanche, where would you tell them to go to jump in?
Yeah, go to build.avax.network. That's the Avalanche Builder Hub. They will get everything there they need. If they already know how to build, they will find the documentation with references. If they're learning how to build, they will find Avalanche Academy. And obviously, then if they're looking for grant opportunities, incubators, accelerators, hackathons, it's all there. So yeah, build.avax.network, and it will hopefully offer everything they will need to start building.
Sick. All right, build.avax.network, right?
Exactly.
Cool. Okay. Well, Martin, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for doing that demo. That was really cool. Excited to see what Avalanche is going to do next. I've always thought that their design was very, very cool, and I don't know, technically just so fascinating. So thank you so much, and thanks for coming on Build on Chain.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.